The perfect daughter stands at the podium, her voice steady and clear as she delivers her valedictorian speech. My sister Megan, the golden child, speaking about dreams and potential while I grip the edges of my metal folding chair, fighting the wave of nausea that's been my constant companion for weeks. I'm Aubrey, the family disappointment, and I'm about to ruin my sister's perfect moment. The late May heat presses down on the football field where hundreds of parents and students sit in neat rows. Everything about this graduation ceremony screams control and order, exactly how my father, the college administrator, likes it. He's beaming from his place of honor on stage, watching Megan weave her carefully crafted words about future success and family values. My stomach lurches again. I shouldn't have come, but missing my sister's graduation would have given my father another reason to compare us. Why can't you be more like Megan? The words echo in my head as bile rises in my throat. Are you okay? Tom whispers from beside me. You look pale. I try to nod, but the motion makes the world tilt. The pregnancy test hidden in my desk drawer flashes through my mind, both of them actually. Double positive, double trouble. Megan's voice carries across the field. And so, as we stand on the threshold of our futures, I'm going to throw up. Right here, right now, in front of everyone. I stumble to my feet, drawing sharp looks from nearby parents. My mother's eyes find me from her front row seat, her face tightening with familiar disappointment. Aubrey, Tom reaches for my arm, but I'm already moving. I make it 3 steps before my knees buckle. The world spins, voices blur together, and then I'm falling. The last thing I see before everything goes black is my father's face. Not concerned, but angry. Always angry. When I come to, I'm lying on a cot in the nurse's office. The vinyl covering crackles as I shift, and the smell of antiseptic makes my stomach roll again. What were you thinking? My father's voice cuts through the fog. He's standing by the door, arms crossed, jaw clenched. You couldn't even let your sister have one day? Robert, my mother says softly, but there's no real protest in her tone. I'm sorry, I whisper, though I'm not sure what I'm apologizing for. Fainting, being pregnant, or simply existing. The nurse wants to run some tests, my father continues, his words precise and controlled. Care to tell us what she might find? The moment stretches between us like a rubber band about to snap. In my head, I see the next few minutes play out. The revelation, the shock, the inevitable explosion of rage and disappointment. My father's carefully constructed image of our perfect family crumbling because his youngest daughter got knocked up at 19. I'm pregnant, I say, and the words hang in the air like smoke. My mother makes a small sound, not quite a gasp, not quite a sob. My father's face goes completely still, the way it does right before he explodes. Who knows? He demands. Just Tom, and Ethan the father, I swallow hard. He doesn't want anything to do with it. Of course he doesn't, my father snaps. This ends now. We'll make arrangements. No. The word comes out stronger than I expected. This isn't a discussion, Aubrey. You will not destroy everything we've built, everything your sister has worked for. I sit up slowly, the room swaying slightly. I'm keeping it. The hell you are. He steps closer, looming over me. You're barely more than a child yourself. You have no job, no degree, no future. You will do as I say. Looking into his eyes, I see something I've never noticed before. Fear. Not for me, but for himself. For his reputation, his control, his perfect family facade. No, I say again. And in that moment, something shifts inside me. A seed of resistance taking root, growing stronger with each beat of my heart. I won't. His face darkens, and I know what's coming next will change everything. But for the first time in my life, I'm ready for the storm. The drive home feels like a funeral procession. My father's Mercedes leads the way, my mother silent beside him. I'm in the back of Tom's beaten-up Honda, watching the familiar streets blur past, each turn bringing us closer to the confrontation I know is coming. I can turn around, Tom says quietly. We could just drive. Keep going until we hit the coast. The offer tempts me more than I want to admit, but running won't solve anything. I learned that lesson watching my Aunt Clara disappear from our lives years ago. leaving nothing but whispered accusations and my father's rage in her wake. Our house looms ahead, all perfect angles and manicured lawns, a prison disguised as a home. Tom pulls up to the curb, and I catch my sister's car already parked in the driveway. Of course, Megan would be here. She's probably already planning damage control. "You don't have to do this alone," Tom says. "Yes, I do." I squeeze his hand once before stepping out into the evening air. Inside, voices drift from my father's study. I pause in the hallway, my hand resting unconsciously on my still flat stomach. "She's always been difficult," my mother's voice, strained and tired. "But this ends tonight." My father's tone leaves no room for argument. "I won't have her destroy everything we've built. Maybe if we just..." Megan starts. "Enough!" A sharp crack, his hand hitting his desk. "Your sister has made her choice. Now she'll face the consequences." I step into the doorway, forcing myself to stand straight despite the nausea still lurking at the edges of my consciousness. Don't I get a say in those consequences? 3 heads snap toward me, my father behind his massive desk, my mother perched on the leather sofa, and Megan standing by the window, a perfect family portrait about to shatter. "You lost that right when you decided to throw away your future," my father says. "Do you have any idea what this will do to our reputation, to your sister's career prospects?" "My career prospects?" Megan's voice cracks slightly. "Dad, that's not..." "Of course it is," he cuts her off. "Everything we've worked for, everything we've sacrificed to maintain our standing in this community. And you," he turns back to me, "you just had to play the rebel. Couldn't stand seeing your sister succeed, could you?" The accusation hits harder than I expect. "This has nothing to do with Megan. Everything in this family has to do with everyone in this family," he snaps. "Your mother and I have already made the arrangements. Dr. Phillips owes me a favor. This can all be handled quietly, and we can put this unfortunate incident behind us." "No." The word comes out steady, surprising even me. "This isn't a discussion, Aubrey." "You're right," I say. "It's not, because this isn't your choice to make." My mother finally speaks, her voice soft but sharp. "You're 19, living under our roof, dependent on our support. What exactly do you think your options are?" "I'll leave." The words taste like freedom and terror mixed together. "And go where?" My father laughs, but there's no humor in it. "To that boy's house? The one who couldn't even face us today?" "Robert," my mother warns, but he's building steam now. "Or maybe to your Aunt Clara? Following in her footsteps of poor decisions and burned bridges?" Something in his tone makes me pause. There's more there. Something raw and personal in the way he spits out Aunt Clara's name. I file it away for later examination. "I'll figure it out," I say. "But I'm keeping this baby." "Then you'll do it without our support." He stands, towering over his desk. No money, no car, no college fund, nothing. "Dad, please." Megan steps forward, but he silences her with a look. "You have until morning to pack your things," he continues. "After that, you're no longer welcome in this house." My mother makes a small sound, quickly stifled. Megan's face has gone pale, her perfect composure cracking around the edges. And in that moment, I see them all clearly. Puppets dancing to my father's tune, too afraid or too broken to cut their strings. "Fine," I say, and turn to leave. But at the doorway, I stop. "You know what's funny? You're so worried about your reputation, about what people will think. But at least I'm honest about my mistakes. What about yours?" I don't wait for his response. As I climb the stairs to my room, I hear the first cracks forming in their perfect facade. My mother's muffled sob, Megan's raised voice, my father's sharp commands for silence. Tomorrow, I'll be gone. But I'm starting to realize that leaving might just be the beginning of something much bigger than a teenage pregnancy scandal. Dr. Phillips's office smells like artificial lavender and judgment. The pamphlets on the coffee table mock me with their cheerful fonts and sanitized language about options and choices. My mother sits 3 chairs away, her spine rigid, checking her watch every 30 seconds as if she could speed time through sheer will. "Aubrey Thompson?" The nurse's voice carries across the waiting room. I stand, my legs shaking. My mother rises too, but I hold up my hand. "I'm going alone." "Don't be difficult," she whispers. but I'm already following the nurse down the sterile hallway. Dr. Phillips looks exactly like someone my father would know. Expensive watch, practiced smile, the kind of confidence that comes from never having your authority questioned. He gestures to the examination chair while reviewing my chart. "So we're looking at approximately 8 weeks," he says, not really a question. Robert explained the situation. "We can take care of this quickly and discreetly." "I want to know about the risks." He looks up, surprised. "The procedure is very safe. We can have you back home by—" "All the risks," I interrupt. "Long-term complications, future fertility, everything." Something flickers across his face. Annoyance, maybe respect. He sets down the chart. "There's always a small chance of complications. In rare cases, scarring can affect future fertility, but given your situation—" "What situation? My father's reputation?" The doctor's carefully neutral expression cracks slightly. "Your father is concerned about your future. Sometimes we need to make difficult choices to protect—" "To protect what?" My voice rises. "The family name? His position at the college? Tell me, Dr. Phillips, how many other girls has my father sent to you for discreet solutions?" His silence tells me everything. "I'm not having the procedure," I say, standing. "And I think maybe the medical board would be interested in knowing about your arrangement with my father." "Miss Thompson." His tone hardens. "Think carefully about what you're doing. Your father has influenced a lot of careers in this town, including mine. But he's also ended them." The threat hangs between us, and suddenly I understand exactly how my father maintains his perfect world. How many lives has he shaped or destroyed with his influence? How many secrets are buried under his carefully maintained reputation? I leave without another word, ignoring my mother's questions as I walk straight out of the clinic. The summer air hits me like a wall, and I gulp it down, fighting nausea that has nothing to do with pregnancy. My phone buzzes. A text from Megan. "Where are you? Dad's furious." Another buzz. "Aunt Clara called the house. Dad lost it. Something about James?" My fingers freeze over the screen. James. A name I've never heard before, but it made my father lose control? I save the message just as Tom's car pulls up. "You okay?" he asks as I slide into the passenger seat. "Drive to Aunt Clara's. Your parents won't look for me there. They haven't spoken to her in years." I punch her address into his GPS, the one my mother thought I didn't know about, carefully preserved in an old address book hidden in her desk. What happened in there? I stare out the window, watching the familiar streets of our town transform into unknown territory. I think I just discovered that Dr. Phillips isn't the only one keeping my father's secrets. "Aubrey," Tom's voice is careful. "Are you sure you want to pull this thread? Some secrets stay buried for a reason." "Like James?" The name feels significant on my tongue, though I don't know why. Who's James? I don't know, but my father's reaction to his name tells me he's important. I rest my hand on my stomach, feeling a new kind of strength growing inside me, and Aunt Clara knows why. We turn onto a quiet street lined with modest houses, nothing like my father's carefully maintained mansion. Tom pulls up to a small blue house with wild roses climbing the porch. "Whatever you find out," he says, "it's going to change things. Are you ready for that?" I look at the house, thinking about secrets and lies, about power and control, about the way my father's perfectly constructed world is built on other people's silence. "Yes," I say, opening the car door. "I'm ready to tear it all down." The porch steps creak under my feet as I approach the door, each step taking me further from the life I knew and closer to whatever truth waits behind Aunt Clara's door. I raise my hand to knock, and in that moment, I feel something shift inside me. Not just the baby, but something deeper. Something that tastes like justice. Aunt Clara's kitchen table holds more truth than my father's entire house. The morning light streams through unwashed windows, illuminating a stack of old photographs and newspaper clippings spread before me. My hands shake as I pick up a yellowed hospital record. "James Thompson," I read aloud. "Born with spina bifida, given up for adoption." The date makes my stomach clench. Exactly 25 years ago. "Your father made that decision alone," Aunt Clara says, pouring more coffee into my untouched cup. "Linda was still sedated when he signed the papers. But she never fought it? By the time she found out, Robert had convinced everyone it was for the best. A clean break, he called it. Clara's mouth twists. Nothing clean about abandoning your child. My phone buzzes again. Another message from Megan. I've been ignoring them all morning, but this one catches my eye. Dad's calling an emergency family meeting. Says he knows where you are. Please come home. He can't force me back, I say, more to myself than Clara. No, but he can make life very difficult. She slides a business card across the table. James Harrison, that's the name he goes by now. He's giving a speech at the medical conference next month. Your father's conference. The irony hits like a punch to the gut. My perfect, controlling father who threw away his firstborn son will be sitting in the audience while that same son delivers the keynote address on pediatric surgery. Does James know about them? No. Clara's eyes hold something I can't quite read. But maybe he should. A knock at the door makes us both jump. Tom appears in the kitchen doorway, his face tight with worry. Aubrey, you need to see this. He holds out his phone, showing me a social media post from Megan. It's a carefully worded announcement about her new job at the college, working directly under our father. The comments are full of congratulations, praising the Thompson family legacy. She's choosing his side, I whisper. She's choosing survival, Clara corrects. Just like I did once. Just like your mother still does. Another message pops up, this one from an unknown number. My heart stops when I open it. It's a photo of me entering the abortion clinic yesterday, clearly taken without my knowledge. The caption reads, "What would the board think about Dr. Phillips's special arrangements?" He's threatening me, I say, showing them the message. Tom's jaw tightens. We should go to the police. With what? My father owns half this town. The realization hits me hard. That's why you left, isn't it, Clara? You knew something. She doesn't answer immediately, instead walking to a locked drawer in her desk. The key shakes slightly in her hand as she removes a thick manila envelope. I kept records, she says finally. Of everything. Every girl your father sent to Phillips, every career he destroyed, every favor called in, including what really happened with James. Why didn't you use them? Because exposure would hurt more than just Robert. All those girls, those families, they've built new lives. Some secrets protect the innocent as much as the guilty. She places the envelope in front of me. But maybe it's time for the right truth to come out. I stare at the envelope, feeling the weight of lives and lies pressing down on me. Through the window, I can see my father's Mercedes pulling up to the curb. He's here, Tom says quietly. Good. I stand, one hand on my stomach, the other gripping the envelope. Let him come. Aubrey! Clara's voice stops me. Remember, revenge and justice aren't always the same thing. I look at the envelope, then at the photo of James speaking at a medical conference. Successful, whole, everything my father tried to throw away. In that moment, I realize what I have to do. No, I agree. Sometimes justice is better. The doorbell rings, its cheerful chime at odds with the tension filling the room. I take a deep breath, feeling my child move within me. Another life my father wanted to erase. But this time, the choice isn't his to make. I head for the door, the envelope secure in my hands, ready to face whatever comes next. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone's perfect world, it's forcing them to face the truth they've spent a lifetime burying. The medical conference program feels heavy in my hands. James Harrison's photo stares back at me. My father's abandoned son, now a celebrated pediatric surgeon. 3 weeks of planning have led to this moment. Watching the conference center fill with doctors, administrators, and my father's carefully cultivated network of influence. He's arriving in 10 minutes, Tom says, checking his phone. Security confirmed it. I adjust my visitor's badge, conscious of my growing belly beneath the loose blazer. 4 months pregnant, and already my body betrays secrets I'm not ready to share. Aubrey? Megan's voice makes me freeze. She stands at the entrance to the conference hall, wearing the same expression she used when covering for my teenage rebellions. Dad knows you're here. Good. I hold up the manila envelope from Clara. He should be here for this. You don't understand. Ethan's here too. The name hits like ice water. What? Dad hired him. He's working security. She steps closer, lowering her voice. He knows things, Aubrey, about the baby. My hand instinctively moves to my stomach. Ethan abandoned me the moment I told him about the pregnancy, but of course my father would find a way to weaponize him. Dr. Harrison is entering the building. Crackles over the security radio at a nearby guard's belt. Time slows. Through the glass doors, I see James for the first time in person. He walks with a slight limp, the only visible sign of the condition my father deemed unworthy of the Thompson name. Behind him, I spot Ethan in a security uniform, speaking into his radio. "Whatever you're planning," Megan whispers, "it's not too late to stop." Actually, it is. I pull out my phone, sending the pre-written email to every board member and local news outlet. Because I just sent proof of Dad's arrangement with Dr. Phillips. And in about 30 seconds, James is going to learn who really signed his adoption papers. Megan's face drains of color. "You'll destroy everything." "No. Dad did that 25 years ago when he threw away his son." The conference hall doors open. James enters, surrounded by admiring colleagues. My father appears from another doorway, his practiced smile faltering when he sees me. "Security," he snaps, but Ethan hesitates, looking between us. "Sir," Ethan starts. "Maybe we should... now." I step forward, envelope in hand. "Hello, James?" Or should I say, brother? The room goes silent. James turns, confusion crossing his face. My father moves with surprising speed, but Tom steps between us. "Miss Thompson," a security guard approaches. "You need to leave." "Not before he sees these." I open the envelope, pulling out the adoption papers with my father's signature. 25 years ago, Robert Thompson signed away his firstborn son because he was born with spina bifida, a son who grew up to become one of the country's leading pediatric surgeons. James takes the papers with trembling hands. My father's face contorts with a rage I've never seen before. "You ungrateful!" He starts toward me, but Megan suddenly moves to my side. "It's true," she says, her voice carrying across the stunned audience. "I found the papers in Mom's desk years ago." Phones are out now, recording everything. James stares at the documents, then at our father, his professional composure cracking. "Robert Thompson is your biological father," I continue, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "He abandoned you without your mother's consent, just like he tried to force me to abort my baby to protect his precious reputation." "You're lying," James whispers, but his eyes say he knows it's true. My phone buzzes. News alerts about Dr. Phillips's illegal arrangements with the college administrator. My father's carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. "I can explain," my father starts, but James cuts him off. "Explain what? How you threw away a child because he wasn't perfect? How you're still doing it?" Ethan steps forward, removing his security earpiece. "Sir, I won't help you hurt her again." The room erupts in whispers. My father's network watching his control slip away. But as I look at James's devastated face, at Megan's tears, at the pain rippling through our broken family, I realize revenge tastes different than I imagined. "I didn't do this for revenge," I say, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I did it because some truths need to be told, some lies need to end." My father lunges for the papers in James's hands, but it's too late. The truth, like the child growing inside me, has a life of its own now, and neither of us can be silenced anymore. The college board meeting room feels like a tomb. My father sits at the head of the table, his lawyer whispering in his ear while board members shuffle papers and avoid eye contact. The local news vans outside cast long shadows through the windows. I'm not supposed to be here, but Megan's employee badge got me through security. My sister, now suspended from her position pending investigation, stands in the corner, her perfect posture finally cracking under the weight of everything we've lost. "The board calls Dr. James Harrison," the chairman announces. James enters, walking past me without a glance. Since the conference, he's refused to speak to any of us. I don't blame him. Finding out your biological father abandoned you is one thing. Learning your sister used that truth as a weapon is another. "Dr. Harrison," my father's lawyer begins, "regarding the allegations made about your adoption." "They're not allegations," James's voice cuts through the formal atmosphere. "I've confirmed everything through hospital records. Robert Thompson is my biological father, and he abandoned me without my mother's consent." My father doesn't flinch, but his knuckles whiten against the polished table. "Miss Thompson," the chairman turns to me, "your evidence regarding Dr. Phillips's arrangements, we need to discuss." The boardroom door bursts open. My mother storms in, clutching a familiar manila envelope. My stomach drops. Not the copy I gave James, but the original from Aunt Clara's desk. "Linda," my father warns, but she's already speaking. "These records," she says, her voice trembling, "they're not complete. Clara didn't just keep evidence about Robert's arrangements. She kept everything." The room goes silent. My mother pulls out a document I've never seen before, including proof that she's James's real mother. The world tilts. James stands so quickly his chair crashes backward. "What?" "Clara Thompson is your biological mother," my mother continues. "Robert forced her to give you up, threatened to expose her relationship with a married doctor. He used you to control her, just like he's tried to control all of us." My father's mask finally cracks. "You had no right." "I had every right!" My mother's voice rises. 25 years of secrets, of watching you destroy lives to maintain your precious reputation. And now our daughters. That's enough." My father stands. "This meeting is over." "No," James says quietly. "It's not. Because I'm pressing charges. Against all of you." The word hits like a physical blow. "James, I never meant..." "To what?" "Use me for revenge? Destroy my life to punish him?" He gestures at our father. "You're all the same. Playing games with people's lives. Thinking you get to decide what truth deserves to be told." Megan steps forward. "We were trying to help." "Help?" James laughs bitterly. "I had a life, a career, parents who chose me. Now what do I have? A biological father who threw me away, an aunt who's actually my mother, and a sister who used my trauma for her own vendetta." The board members whisper among themselves. My father's lawyer scribbles furiously, and I stand there, feeling my carefully constructed plan crumbling around me. "The district attorney's office will be in touch," James says, turning to leave. "With all of you." As he walks out, I catch a glimpse of Aunt Clara in the hallway, her face pale and drawn. Our eyes meet briefly before she turns away, following her son into the shadows of truths I never should have unearthed. "Well," my father says into the silence, his voice steady again, "it seems my daughter's quest for justice has backfired rather spectacularly." He's right. In trying to expose his secrets, I've destroyed more than just his reputation. I've shattered James's life, betrayed Aunt Clara's trust, cost Megan her career, and now face potential legal consequences that could affect my unborn child's future. The baby kicks, as if sensing my despair. Tom's words echo in my head. Sometimes revenge hurts the avenger more than the target. I leave the boardroom without another word, walking past the news vans and reporters, past the familiar buildings where my father once reigned supreme. The truth is out now, but it's not the cleansing fire I imagined. Instead, it's a poison that's touched everyone I meant to protect. In the parking lot, I spot James helping Aunt Clara into his car. They drive away without looking back, leaving me alone with the realization that in my quest for justice, I've become exactly what I hated. Someone who sacrifices others for their own agenda. The worst part isn't the potential charges or the family I've destroyed. It's knowing that somewhere in this wreckage, I lost sight of who I wanted to be. The courthouse steps are crowded with reporters when my father emerges from his hearing. His lawyer shields him from cameras while flashbulbs capture his fallen empire. The great Robert Thompson, facing criminal charges for decades of manipulation and corruption. I watch from across the street, one hand on my swollen belly, the other clutching James's latest press statement. He's become the face of medical ethics reform, turning his pain into purpose, unlike me. "Ready?" Tom asks beside me. Before I can answer, Aunt Clara's car pulls up. She steps out, looking older than her 42 years, and walks straight toward my father. The reporters surge forward, sensing blood in the water. "Robert!" Her voice carries across the chaos. "We need to talk." My father tries to push past, but she grabs his arm. "About Mother's Trust Fund." He freezes. Even from here, I see the color drain from his face. "Not here," he hisses. "Yes, here." She turns to the cameras. "Should I tell them how you really paid for James's adoption? About the money you stole?" I move without thinking, crossing the street. Tom calls after me, but I'm already caught in the gravity of this moment. "What trust fund?" I ask, stepping into the circle of cameras. My father's mask cracks. "Aubrey, leave. Your grandmother left everything to Clara." My mother's voice comes from behind me. She emerges from the courthouse looking straight at her husband. But Robert convinced the lawyers she was unstable after her affair, had everything transferred to him instead. You used my inheritance to pay for my own adoption? Clara's laugh is bitter. To buy my silence? The reporter's questions become a roar. My father's lawyer tries to intervene, but it's too late. I protected this family! My father shouts suddenly. Everything I did was to maintain order, to preserve our name. By destroying everyone who didn't fit your perfect image? I step closer. James? Clara? Me? You ungrateful! He lunges forward, but someone catches his arm. James. That's enough, Father. The word drips with contempt. The board of directors just voted. The medical center is launching a full investigation into every adoption you facilitated through Dr. Phillips. My father's composure shatters completely. You can't... Actually, I can. As the new head of ethics oversight. James turns to Clara, to his mother. With full support from the district attorney's office. The cameras capture everything. My father's defeat, Clara's tears, James's quiet strength. But it's my mother who delivers the final blow. I've filed for divorce, she announces, and I'm testifying about everything. My father lunges again, this time at my mother. I step between them instinctively, protecting her the way she never protected me. He pulls back at the last second, his hand frozen in midair, finally seeing what he's become. You're just like him, he spits at me. Using people's secrets as weapons, destroying lives for revenge. The words hit home, but not in the way he expects. Because he's right, I did become like him, and that's why this has to end differently. No, I say quietly. I'm choosing to be better. That's why I'm dropping the charges against you. The reporters fall silent. James and Clara turn to stare at me. What? My father whispers. I'm having a daughter, I tell him. And I won't teach her that revenge heals anything. The truth is out now. What happens next isn't about destroying you. It's about rebuilding everything you broke. I turn to James and Clara, starting with our real family. My father stands alone on the courthouse steps, surrounded by cameras, but finally stripped of his power to control the narrative. The truth has done what revenge never could. Set us all free. Let's go home, I say to no one in particular, and everyone who matters follows. James, Clara, my mother, Megan, Tom. We leave my father to face the consequences of his own choices, not our vengeance. As we walk away, my daughter kicks, and I understand finally what Clara meant about some secrets protecting the innocent. The biggest secret was one I kept from myself. That healing comes not from revenge, but from the courage to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. Clara's garden blooms with late summer roses as I watch James teach my daughter to walk. Her tiny hands grip his fingers while she toddles across the uneven ground, his patience matching her determination. The sight makes my chest ache with something between joy and regret. She has your stubbornness, Megan says, settling beside me on the porch steps. She's different now, softer around the edges, but stronger at her core. The job she found at a women's shelter suits her better than our father's carefully planned career ever did. And your grace, I reply, watching my daughter's careful steps. The screen door creaks behind us. My mother emerges with lemonade, her wedding ring notably absent. The divorce papers arrived yesterday, along with news of my father's plea deal. House arrest instead of prison, his empire reduced to a monitored existence in the same mansion he once ruled. Ethan called again, my mother says quietly. I know. I touch my phone through my pocket, feeling the weight of his unread messages. He wants to meet his daughter, claims he's changed. Maybe he has, but some bridges stay burned. James scoops up my giggling daughter, his slight limp more pronounced after a long day. Someone's ready for her nap, he calls, heading toward us. I'll take her, Clara offers, appearing from her garden. She meets James's eyes, mother and son still navigating their complicated truth. He hands over my daughter with a small smile, their shared features obvious now that we know to look for them. The ethics board approved the new oversight committee, James tells me as Clara disappears inside. We're implementing screening procedures for all adoption cases. No more secret arrangements. And Dr. Phillips? Lost his license. He's cooperating with the investigation. Tom's truck pulls into the driveway, his son Noah waving from the passenger seat. They've become regular fixtures here, helping Clara with house repairs, joining our makeshift Sunday dinners, building something new from the ashes of what burned. Dad asked about you, Megan says suddenly. He wanted to know if you'd bring the baby to see him. The old anger flares, but it's duller now, more like an old scar than an open wound. What did you tell him? That it's not my decision to make. She picks at a loose thread on her sleeve. He's different now, smaller. Sometimes smaller is better, my mother observes. Means there's room to grow. Inside, I hear my daughter's laughter mixing with Clara's soft singing. The sound draws me up, pulling me toward the door, but I pause at the threshold. I got another letter from the support group, I tell them. 3 more families have come forward about forced adoptions. They're asking for help navigating reunions. Are you going to help them? James asks. I think about revenge and justice, about how thin the line between them can be, about my daughter, who will grow up knowing all her family's truths, the beautiful and the ugly ones. Yes, I decide, but not for revenge, for healing. The afternoon light catches the roses, making them glow like tiny flames. Tom and Noah join us on the porch, fitting seamlessly into our patchwork family. My mother pours more lemonade, her hands steady now that she's free. Megan leans against the railing, finally comfortable in her own skin. James watches Clara through the window, their shared pain slowly transforming into understanding. And I stand in the doorway between past and future, knowing that some secrets need to stay buried, while others need the light to heal. My father's perfect world had to burn so something real could grow in its place. My daughter's cry draws me inside, not urgent, but demanding. As I lift her from Clara's arms, she grabs my necklace, the one containing a small photo of all of us at her christening. Her family. Not perfect, not unbroken, but real. Tell me again, she'll ask someday, about how our family found each other. And I'll tell her about revenge that turned to redemption, about secrets that became strength, about how sometimes you have to tear everything down to build something true. But mostly, I'll tell her about love, the kind that survives fire and grows back stronger in broken places. Because that's the secret I finally learned. Revenge burns everything, but truth plants gardens.